To Pittsburgh. We have a lot of rivers around here, right? They call it the Three Cities River. And with those rivers, you can get a lot of flooding. And in fact, we have had some pretty big flooding in this area. Back in 1936, long time ago, we had a river flood stage of 46 feet, which means the river got really high downtown. Now, in 1936, there's an interesting story there, because Congress of the United States was debating whether or not to put dams on the Mon and on the Allegheny River. And half of the Congress had said, yes, we should give Pennsylvania some money for that. And half had not decided yet. That was in 1935. Then in 1936, we had the worst floods we've ever had. And when that happened, and it did so much devastation, guess what happened? They approved the money for 16 dams to go on those rivers, and those dams are still standing today. So since then, since they got them built, we haven't had nearly as bad of floods. Now, we had a bad one in 1907. All the dams were completed in 1942, so that was a bad one. 1902 was before the flood, 35 feet. And then we had a hurricane. Hurricane Augusta came through in 1972, and that raised the river to 35.8 feet. Now they say if those dams were not in place in 1972, the flooding in downtown Pittsburgh would have been worse than what we saw in 1936, and that would have been devastating. Because I want to show you some pictures of what happened in 1936. This was the newspaper on that day: death and devastation by the Great Deluge. Okay? Now that is downtown. The bridges are kind of in a different place, but look at this. This is downtown, and look, the river is up like to the second floor of those buildings down there. So it was completely, the Golden Triangle was flooded out. Now these were the trolley cars that ran at that time. You see how high that water is, almost to the top of the trolley car downtown? That's a lot of water, okay? That was one of the stores downtown, and it was almost up to the sign at the top of the store. And this is how people had to get around. The water was so high, they had to kind of make themselves some makeshift ramps and get around from one place to another. Now, when this happened, it was the 1936 St. Patrick's Day flood. A couple things happened. We had a bunch of snow that year, and that snow melted really quick, so the temperatures rose really fast. Plus, when the temperatures rose, we had a whole bunch of thunderstorms that came through too. So we had the rain that was coming down, we had the snow that was melting, all of that was filling into the river, and it caused all this damage. 65% of the buildings in downtown were destroyed. So think about that. 2 out of every 3 buildings in downtown Pittsburgh were destroyed. That was $250 million damage then. That's $4 billion in damage now. And back in those days, we had all the steel factories down along the rivers. 60,000 steel workers were without jobs. That means probably half the town was out of work, and nobody had money to put food on the table or pay the rent. It was absolutely devastating, okay? And we also had power out for 8 days, okay? So that means nobody back then were able to play any of their Xboxes. Yeah. Okay, they didn't really have Xboxes back then, or TVs. Okay. All right. Now, next topic we're going to is lightning. This is a picture of downtown last 4th of July, okay, from Mount Washington. You can see the man-made fireworks going off in the foreground, and you can see the natural fireworks going off in the background, all right? And again, this happened just this last 4th of July. Now we're going to send it over to Zach here with his final demonstration, and my all-time favorite. Please put your hands together for Zach. We'll tell you a little bit more about static electricity and light.
Boys and girls, I am going to talk to you about static electricity and lightning. In order to help me, I brought a device called a Van de Graaff generator. A Van de Graaff generator, it is it's a machine that generates and creates static electricity. Now, I'm sure most of you know what static electricity is. If you don't, picture it's wintertime. You don't have your shoes on. You're dragging your feet along the carpet. And then you touch your cat, or you touch your doorknob, or you touch your sister. And you get shocked. And you shock them. That's static electricity. It's created, simply speaking, it's created through friction, which is things rubbing against each other. My machine, it has a belt in it. That belt rubs against a copper cone that's inside this wall. It creates friction. It builds a charge. That charge, being electricity, wants to go into things that conduct. Certain things that conduct, water conducts, And we're made up mostly of what? Water. So humans conduct, metal conducts really well. So that charge that builds up inside of here, it goes onto this sphere. It discharges into this sphere because it's metal. And then it wants to escape from there. So first, let me just show you with my machine. If you look really closely, you may see the static charges discharging into my special wand here. If you listen closely, you may hear little snapping sounds. That's going to be the thunder equivalent of my generator. So first, watch very closely, listen very closely, so you can get an idea of what this machine does. All right, see it's building up a charge because that belt's running. Maybe a little tough to hear or to see, but you can definitely hear it. It'll go purple or white start for me. Alright, so this wand that I have is connected to the machine. That's so that the electricity will go into the wand and then have a place to go. It always wants to get somewhere. It always wants to escape. So, for my next demonstration, I'm going to need some volunteers. But before anyone volunteers, here are the rules for my volunteers. First of all, I will only choose you if you're sitting down and totally quiet with your hand raised very politely. If you're making any noise, you're never going to get picked. And don't raise your hand until I ask for volunteering. Also, and another thing, if you have a hearing aid or a pacemaker, I can't have you up here because I don't want anything bad to happen. Okay, so can I please get 4 volunteers, please? If I could get this girl in the glasses and the white shirt in the very, very back. If I could get this guy in the blue. Yeah, yes. If I could get this guy in the red shirt here. Yes. And this girl in the red scarf. I have to pick bigger kids because I don't want to scare anyone. If my volunteers are going to be very brave. You're going to need to be brave. Boys and girls, what I'm going to do in a moment is I'm going to have my volunteers, actually can I have right down line up here. You will stay right there, perfect. Alright, so now we can all do link pinkies like this. Alright, very nice. Alright, so now they're all connected. That means that if I were to put electricity into this chain of people, it would go all the way through the connection. Because they all conduct, and it wants to keep going. Oh, and also to help, I'm going to put this metal here at the very end, and you'll hold on to it. That way it has something that it really wants to get into. Now, the way I'm going to do it, I'm going to stand on this plastic crate, and I'm going to put my hand on this machine. I'm going to start to build up a charge. I'm going to stand on the crate so that the electricity has nowhere to go. I'm one with the machine. And then when I say, and right when I say, I promise it's better not to wait, we're going to put our fists out and get them really close. It's okay. So I want you all to look really closely at between the two of our fists and right between the two of our fists, and also look and see if we get a reaction in the last person in our chain. That way you'll know that it went all the way. Okay, oh, and also I'm going to hold my hair down. Okay, so, wow. Okay, so boys and girls, I'm going to turn this down a little bit. I'm going to have my hand on it. Now remember, almost immediately, I'm going to start to build up a charge. That electricity is going to discharge into me from the wall. Okay, 1 second. The longer you wait, the worse it'll be. But also, it may be easier to go to switch.
And that's why it's my favorite experiment.